Death is perhaps the most universally feared and avoided subject in human life. Yet, for Miyamoto Musashi, the undefeated samurai, and for the Stoics, the ancient masters of personal resilience, death was not something to run from. It was something to embrace. By contemplating mortality, they believed one could achieve true clarity and live a life of purpose, unburdened by fear. In this discussion, we will dive deep into the shared philosophy of Musashi and the Stoics on embracing death. We'll explore how understanding our mortality can help us live more courageously, stay focused on what truly matters, and foster a mindset that propels personal growth. If you're a man in your 30s on the path of self-improvement, this idea will push you to think beyond the surface and focus on living a life that truly matters. Musashi on death, living without fear. Miyamoto Musashi's life was forged in the fires of combat, where death was a constant presence. Yet, rather than fearing death, Musashi embraced it. His philosophy was clear: to live fully, one must be prepared to die at any moment. In the Book of Five Rings, he states, "You must understand that there is more than one path to the top of the mountain, but in all things know your death, for without this knowledge you cannot live freely." This concept was central to Musashi's practice of the sword. By accepting death, he liberated himself from fear, allowing him to fight with complete focus and clarity. In battle, hesitation and fear of death can lead to defeat. But Musashi's willingness to face death head-on gave him the calm and presence needed to win over 60 duels, never losing a single one. Musashi believed that only by confronting our own mortality could we move through life with decisiveness. This doesn't mean seeking death, but rather living with the understanding that it's inevitable. This awareness frees us from being paralyzed by fear, leading to a more authentic, courageous life. Stoicism and memento mori, a constant reminder. The Stoics, much like Musashi, saw death not as an enemy, but as a constant companion. They practiced memento mori, the reminder of mortality. This wasn't meant to be morbid or pessimistic. Instead, it was a tool to foster focus, clarity, and virtue. Seneca, the Stoic philosopher, wrote, "Let us prepare our minds as if we'd come to the very end of life. Let us postpone nothing. Let us balance life's books each day, and the one who puts the finishing touches on their life each day is never short of time." This resonates with Musashi's philosophy of living with the knowledge of death. The Stoics believed that by keeping death in mind, we're better able to focus on what truly matters, letting go of trivial concerns and fears. It encourages a mindset where you're less worried about external judgments, material gains, or future anxieties. Instead, you act in the present with purpose, knowing that life is fleeting. Marcus Aurelius, another renowned Stoic, often reminded himself, "You could leave life right now. Let that determine what you do and say and think." This concept of memento mori isn't meant to be a source of dread. It's a wake-up call to live fully. When you remember that your time is limited, you're driven to live more intentionally, with clarity and courage, focusing on things that align with your values and rejecting distractions. The courage to face mortality. One of the most powerful aspects of Musashi's and the Stoics' embrace of death is the courage it inspires. Both philosophies recognize that fear of death is often the root of other fears, whether that's fear of failure, rejection, or loss. By confronting mortality, you strip away the underlying anxieties that hold you back. Musashi's mindset allowed him to face overwhelming odds with calm detachment. In his famous duel against Sasaki Kojiro, Musashi arrived late and seemingly unprepared, wielding a wooden sword. Yet, his calm demeanor and deep understanding of death allowed him to anticipate Kojiro's every move, ultimately emerging victorious. His lack of fear wasn't recklessness, it was mastery over the fear of dying. The Stoics too emphasized that courage arises from accepting the inevitability of death. Epictetus advised, "Don't fear death. Keep in mind that it is not death itself you should fear, but the fear of death. It is fear that makes men slaves, keeping them from living as they ought." By embracing death, you free yourself from living reactively or from making decisions based on fear. This mindset fosters the courage to take calculated risks, pursue meaningful goals, and live in alignment with your highest self. knowing that nothing is guaranteed except the present moment. Implementing the philosophy, how to live with death in mind. One daily reflection on mortality. One practical way to implement Musashi's and the Stoics' view on death is through daily reflection. Every day, take a few minutes to contemplate the fact that your life is finite. This isn't meant to induce fear, but rather to remind you to live with intention. Example, before bed, reflect on whether you lived that day in line with your values. Did you focus on what truly matters, or did you waste time worrying about trivial concerns? Did you engage fully in your tasks, or were you distracted? This reflection can help you recalibrate for the next day. 2. Let go of fear-based decisions. Another practical aspect of embracing death is to recognize when fear is holding you back. Often, we avoid making tough decisions or taking risks because we fear failure, rejection, or loss, fears that are ultimately rooted in the fear of death. Example, in your career or personal life, when faced with a difficult decision, ask yourself, if I knew I could die tomorrow, would I still hesitate? This can help you see past fear and act decisively. Whether it's starting a business, pursuing a passion, or confronting a challenging situation, embracing mortality helps you act with courage. 3. Focus on what truly matters. By accepting death, you begin to prioritize what is truly important. Both Musashi and the Stoics emphasize that life is short and we shouldn't waste time on trivial matters. Example, take time to evaluate your commitments, relationships, and goals. Are you spending time on things that align with your values, or are you getting caught up in superficial distractions? Embracing death helps you say no to the unnecessary and focus on meaningful pursuits, whether that's deepening relationships, honing your skills, or pursuing long-term goals. 4. Find peace in the present. One of the most liberating aspects of contemplating death is that it brings you into the present moment. By realizing that the future is uncertain, you are reminded to live fully in the now. Musashi achieved flow in battle by focusing entirely on the present. He wasn't distracted by the fear of defeat or death. The Stoics shared this focus on the present, as Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Confine yourself to the present." Example, in daily life, practice mindfulness by fully immersing yourself in whatever task you are doing, whether it's work, exercise, or spending time with loved ones. By focusing on the present, you experience life more fully and reduce anxiety about the future. 5. Leave a legacy of virtue. Embracing death encourages us to think about the impact we leave behind. Musashi and the Stoics both focused on living in such a way that their actions and principles would outlive them. This isn't about fame or recognition, but about living a life of virtue, integrity, and purpose that will continue to inspire others long after you're gone. The Stoics, particularly Marcus Aurelius, emphasized that while we may not control how others perceive us, we can control how we live each day and the character we embody. Waste no more time arguing what a good man should be. Be one. Musashi, too, was driven by the idea of mastering himself and living with purpose. He lived by the principles of Bushido, or the way of the warrior, which guided his life not just in battle, but in how he treated others and approached his craft. Even in death, his teachings in the Book of Five Rings continue to guide warriors and students of self-improvement. Example, to implement this, think about the virtues and principles you want to leave behind. What legacy are you building through your actions today? How will your work, relationships, or values be remembered by those who come after you? Focusing on this long-term impact helps you make decisions that reflect your highest ideals and can inspire others long after you're gone. Conclusion, living with purpose through death. Miyamoto Musashi and the Stoics both understood that death is the ultimate teacher. Rather than fearing it, they embraced it as a tool to live more fully and authentically. By contemplating mortality, you can gain the courage to face life's challenges, the clarity to focus on what truly matters, and the presence to live each day with intention. As a man in your 30s, this philosophy can be a powerful guide. Instead of living in fear of the unknown, you can embrace life with the knowledge that death is a part of the natural order. This will help you become more resilient, courageous, and focused on leaving a lasting legacy, living a life worth remembering. In the words of Musashi, if you wish to control others, you must first control yourself. By embracing death, you take control of your life, free from fear, and live with purpose. Thank you for joining us today. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a like so we know to bring you more content like it, and subscribe to our Stoic Will channel for more philosophical discussion along the path to self-improvement.